Hey dolls, it's Andra. Today I am so excited to share with you guys one of my newest acquisitions. This is my very first prototype doll. And yes, technically she's a doll head, but she's still a prototype. I like dolls for the artistry, and this doll to me is pure art. She has easily become one of my favorite pieces in my entire collection. Let me share with you some background on this prototype before we get into the physical details. So I bought this prototype from a previous employee of Mattel. I don't want to disclose their exact job position because I don't know if that can be traced back to them. I just don't want to risk anything in case there's some issues with that. It was someone who worked at Mattel, and they'd worked there for some ambiguous time, let's just say that. But they let me know that this doll in particular was produced in around 1999. Now let's put a pin in that. He also let me know that this was one of 20. So there were 20 prototypes in this batch. So you watching this might have a sister to my prototype. But yes, only 20 of these prototypes exist in the world, and I think that's kind of cool that I know that specifically because prototypes can be pretty elusive. So I'm thankful to have all this background information on my prototype. It makes it extra special. But another fun thing about prototypes is the mystery behind them and trying to figure out where they come from, what they're for, and things like that. I love the artistry behind dolls, and I find it so fascinating to get a glimpse into the inside of an artist's mind and the way they work. So this is why I just love the idea of prototypes. Let's take a closer look at her before I unravel the mystery for you a little bit. So she sports some rooted eyelashes, green eyes. She's on a Bob Mackie face sculpt. She notably has a beauty mark right above her lip. That's what her face up looks like. She's got very simple kind of smoky-ish brown eyeshadow, very neutral, dark red lip, and she's got a very intricate hairstyle. And this is still factory gelled. I am never taking this apart. This is a work of art in itself and a big piece of history, at least in my collection. It's got kind of these two main swirls up here, third one there that's sort of different from the other two. Then the swirls come down here, 4 twist chains that are looped from the previous swirls. You can't really see it on camera, but there are some black threads that hold down some of the swirls to the scalp, especially in the center of her head. Even though this is a tight updo, from what I can tell, especially in the twists, this is a nice hair fiber. So that's kind of everything that we can see on the doll, and that's important because it clues us in to the origins and the aftermath of this doll. When you're trying to identify a Barbie, a good place to start is the face sculpt. Once you've identified the face sculpt, the second thing to do would be to take a look at the makeup, the face up, because that is what differentiates the different releases within that same face sculpt. But since it's a prototype, you should keep in mind that there might be a little wiggle room for variations in the face up, the hair, the skin tone, things like that, because that's the whole point of prototypes. Companies are trying to test out what they want the product to look like, what's feasible with the budget, things like that. While you may not find an exact match, you might find something close, or you might find something totally different. You might find that nothing matches at all. And in that case, you probably have a design that was trashed and never ended up being released in any shape or form. And if that's the case, please share it with us because I find that so fascinating, and I don't know, it's cool when you can share things that people in the community wouldn't normally be able to see because they're unreleased. I don't know, it just makes the community a bit more colorful. Going back to the fact that this doll was made sometime in 1999, we know that the doll release was probably in 1999 or 2000, about a year from the design stage. That seriously narrows down our options because we know that it's a Mackie face, and from the rooted eyelashes you can tell that she's a collector doll. She's not a playline Mackie. And then within that, we know that she was produced in 1999 or 2000, somewhere around there. There were quite a few other brunette dolls with similar face-ups with the Mackie face sculpt that were collector dolls, and I will insert them here. Those could have been possibilities, but they were produced before this prototype was made, so we know that that's just not possibly the same doll release. Keeping in mind the 1999 year, I managed to narrow it down to one doll, and that's kind of amazing. One doll, and it was the closest match. That is Imperial Splendor Barbie. I'll put a picture up of Imperial Splendor Barbie on the screen so you can compare the differences. The differences that I noticed between the two are that this prototype includes rooted eyelashes, a slightly more intricate updo, a beauty mark above the lip on the left side of her face, and a more muted red lip. The final release, I believe, was a porcelain doll, which is interesting. This could have been an easy mock-up for the designers because I think it's easier for them to practice and make prototypes in vinyl rather than porcelain, probably a lot cheaper too. So I guess when they were still figuring out the design, this would have been a way more feasible option. It's not hand painted, so it could also be from the factory, testing out the designs that the designers gave them. And what I'm doing here is trying to piece the history behind this doll together. So this is a lot of speculation, but it's speculation with reason. We can never be sure with prototypes. There will never be any confirmation. This is just what seems to be the most plausible explanation of things. So I'm inclined to believe that she was a mock-up of the design. Maybe they found that they didn't have enough budget for it because they were working with porcelain. Maybe that's why they dropped the rooted eyelashes. There's also a more intricate hairstyle, as I mentioned before, over here. Maybe that was also a budgeting thing, or they realized they couldn't really do something this crazy detailed and tight on a mass scale. And then we talk about the mole above her lip. This is interesting. Imperial Splendor is actually the first doll in the Fabergé series, and there was a second doll, and that second doll had this mole placement. So I believe that they ended up choosing the first doll, Imperial Splendor, to have the mole under the left eye, and then they saved this idea of having the beauty mark right here for the very next doll in the series. They also decided to give Imperial Splendor a more vibrant red lip, maybe to match her dress, because she does have a more vibrant red dress, not really the shade of red. So that's everything that I've been able to piece together about this part of Barbie history. I will be turning her into a full doll. As much as I think she's gorgeous just standing as a head on her own, I think it would be pretty cool to make her into a full doll. So stay tuned for part 2 of this video where I transform this prototype head into a full doll. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.